Have you ever stared at two seemingly identical AI tools and wondered which one actually makes your workday easier, rather than just adding another chore to your plate?
Yeah, you look at their landing pages, they both promise to revolutionize your productivity,
Hmm,
but they feel entirely different in practice.
exactly. You just want to know which one removes daily friction. We don't care which one is theoretically smarter on some obscure benchmark. We care about which one doesn't make you want to throw your laptop out the window.
It is the ultimate modern knowledge work dilemma. We have these incredibly powerful engines sitting right in front of us, but the steering wheels look exactly the same.
And you really don't want to choose the wrong one. Investing your time into a workflow that fights your natural habits is incredibly frustrating.
Right, so today we are doing a deep dive into a step-by-step workflow comparison. We are looking at two major AI agents, Codex and Claude Cowork.
And to be clear, we are not debating underlying neural network architecture today. The mission for this deep dive is entirely pragmatic.
We want to help you figure out your daily driver based on how smooth the application feels and how much control you actually need to do your job.
Because it is never a simple A or B answer. The winner depends entirely on you and how you actually work.
Do you prioritize raw speed and seamless multitasking? Or are you someone who needs strict structure and compartmentalized projects?
Let's start at the very beginning of the user experience, the workspace philosophy. Before you can actually get any work done, you need an environment.
And the first major difference hits you the absolute second you open their desktop applications. It represents a profound difference in design philosophy.
Claude Cowork takes a highly structured approach. It separates your entire workspace into three distinct dedicated tabs: Chat, Cowork, and Code.
Right, so the Chat tab is for your standard back and forth. The Cowork tab is specifically designed to handle long-form file creation.
Like building dense reports.
Exactly. And Code is an isolated environment for programming. Claude forces you to choose a mode before you begin.
But in exchange for that friction, it offers massive flexibility with your local files. You can select multiple folders spread all across your computer's hard drive.
You can even create multiple distinct projects branching out from just one single folder. But there is a pretty significant catch to that setup.
If you want to jump back into something you were working on yesterday, it takes effort. Seeing your recent chats requires you to manually click into those specific project folders first.
Yeah, it effectively hides your history behind layers of clicks. Codex takes the exact opposite approach.
When you open Codex, you are greeted by one single unified workspace. There are no separate tabs for different types of tasks.
Now, Codex does offer a subtle work mode toggle in the settings. You can lean its behavior slightly toward coding or everyday writing.
But it's fundamentally a seamless, single-pane experience. Beat. And crucially, all of your recent chats are just sitting right there in the sidebar.
You can jump right back in with zero friction. But that simplicity comes with a strict architectural rule. In Codex, one folder equals one project.
Period. You cannot split a single folder into different projects. And you can't pull from directories scattered all over your drive.
Not in the same way Claude can, no.
Let's unpack this with an analogy. Using Claude is basically like working in a traditional corporate office. You have specialized rooms for different tasks.
A conference room for chatting, a drafting room for reports, and heavy, secure filing cabinets keeping everything meticulously organized.
Codex, on the other hand, is like an open-plan startup office. Everything you need is constantly within arm's reach. But you can't easily compartmentalize your filing system.
It is all just out there in the open. And this distinction matters deeply. Claude gives power users the rigid structure they often crave.
It keeps contexts cleanly separated, which prevents accidental blending of information if you are jumping between entirely different projects.
Like moving from a Q1 financial review to a creative marketing brainstorm. But for a lot of people, that rigid structure just feels like unnecessary bureaucracy.
So why does this interface structure actually matter so much for daily work?
Because every time you click through folders to find a chat, you lose focus. It taxes your brain.
You're saying it minimizes our daily cognitive load.
Exactly. Codex minimizes those clicks. It assumes keeping your momentum going is more important than perfect silos.
Once you figure out which workspace fits your brain, we move to the next layer, handing over the keys.
An AI agent is really only as useful as its ability to touch external tools, the platforms you already use every day.
This brings us to the integration layer. Connectors versus plugins. Claude calls them connectors. Codex calls them plugins.
And Claude has a massive, undeniable advantage in this category. It integrates natively with Zapier.
Zapier is a tool that links your other apps together. It is essentially the digital glue of the internet.
By hooking into Zapier, Claude instantly unlocks access to nearly every major enterprise tool. But what makes Claude specifically powerful is the granularity of its permissions.
When you set up a connector, Claude lets you define its autonomy. You can give full access. You can set it to approval required.
Or you can mark specific actions as completely blocked. Meanwhile, Codex has a much smaller, curated list of native plugins.
And absolutely zero Zapier support. But the part that stands out to me is the security aspect. Codex lacks those detailed permission settings entirely.
It does. With Codex, you are essentially handing the agent the keys and hoping for the best.
I have to be honest here, I still wrestle with prompt drift myself. Beat. Sometimes these agents just invent a detail out of nowhere.
They absolutely do. Hallucinations are a real problem.
So if I'm giving an AI access to my professional inbox, I need safety. Isn't Claude's approval required setting an absolute necessity? Sending an unchecked email to a client is terrifying.
That is a completely valid fear. It highlights the core tension between safety and seamlessness in AI design.
Claude acts like a brilliant but junior intern. You absolutely need to approve their work before it leaves the building.
Which provides incredible peace of mind. Codex acts like a hyper-confident executive assistant. It just fires off the email the second it has an answer.
So is Codex's lack of granular permissions actually a deal breaker for professionals?
If you handle sensitive client data, yes. It prioritizes speed over vital safety checks.
So Codex trades necessary security for raw execution speed.
Precisely. If you work with strict compliance, Claude is the only responsible option. But there is one weird exception to Claude's dominance.
Gmail.
Yes, this is fascinating. Despite Claude's superiority in connections, it fundamentally struggles with drafting replies inside Gmail.
When you ask Claude to reply to an ongoing conversation, it creates messy drafts. Separate emails that break the original threading.
It effectively fails to hook into the existing message chain. You end up with a fragmented inbox.
Codex is currently much better at this specific task. It cleanly drafts replies directly inside your existing Gmail threads,
Keeping the whole conversation intact, which is vital if you rely on clean email chains to track project history.
All right, so we have our workspace. We have given these tools access to our calendars and inboxes. The next logical step is having them work in the background.
The set it and forget it test. We are talking about automations and scheduled background tasks.
Claude handles this beautifully. It has a dedicated, incredibly clean scheduled section in the app.
Your recurring tasks show up as one main entry. If you have a morning task, you just click the entry.
And the most recent run is right at the top, with older runs easily accessible beneath it.
It is highly reliable for daily repetitive tasks, like a 5 a.m. weather update synthesized with your calendar.
Or a clean summary of your inbox waiting for you. Claude will consistently deliver it. Codex approaches background automations very differently.
Instead of a dedicated section, it handles the automation directly inside the chat window, the same window that originally created it.
Which means your active chat quickly stacks up with messy, recurring outputs. It clogs your screen visually.
But the visual clutter isn't even the biggest issue. The real problem is that Codex automations are notoriously less reliable.
Sometimes they just fail to run completely, even if your computer's awake and connected to the internet.
And this leads to a pretty sharp observation about workflow.
Right, an automation that fails randomly isn't actually an automation at all. Beat. It's just a brand new chore.
Because now you have to constantly babysit the tool. You log on just to check if the machine did its job.
Reliability is the bedrock of trust in any automated system. So why does Codex drop these background tasks so frequently?
It aggressively dedicates computing power to your active chat to make it feel fast. Background tasks get starved.
It sacrifices background reliability for perceived front-end speed.
Exactly. Claude provisions its compute more equitably for scheduled tasks. It provides the dependability you need to step away from the keyboard.
Background tasks are a massive time saver. But we also have to talk about the actual meat of the job.
Tangible outputs, the spreadsheets, the quarterly reports, the slide decks.
Most of your day is likely spent actively creating and iterating on these files. Both tools are genuinely excellent at the initial creation phase.
They generate clean PDFs, structured Excel sheets, and formatted Word docs. But Claude has a slight edge in raw output quality.
Its underlying models favor a more natural, polished tone out of the gate. Its initial design taste is just a bit more refined.
But this brings us to Codex's massive, undeniable advantage, the post-creation editing workflow. This is where things get really interesting.
Because creating the file is only the beginning. When Codex creates a complex 50-row spreadsheet, you can open it in a side panel,
Right next to your chat. You can expand it. You can zoom deep into specific cells.
which is absolutely crucial. Trying to read a dense financial model in a tiny preview window is infuriating.
You review the entire document without ever leaving the application. Your context is never broken.
Codex also features this brilliant tool called Add to Chat. Let's say Codex generates a 5-page marketing report.
And it's mostly great, but paragraph 3 on page 2 is weak.
You don't have to explain to the AI where the error is. You just highlight that specific weak paragraph.
Hit Add to Chat and ask for a localized rewrite. It surgically targets just that text.
Whoa. 2-sec silence. Imagine just pointing at a single bad spreadsheet cell and fixing it instantly. That is incredible.
It is remarkably precise. Claude's preview area, on the other hand, feels very cramped. You can't zoom in effectively.
You can't easily highlight and edit specific sections. You are frequently forced to export the file completely outside of the app.
Downloading it and opening it in Excel just to properly review it.
Using Claude for file creation is like having an assistant hand you a finished painting.
Yeah.
But the lighting in the office is terrible.
So you have to take the painting all the way home to look at it.
Exactly. Codex puts the canvas flat on your desk and lets you point at the exact brushstroke you want changed.
That is a great way to visualize it.
Why does this localized side panel editing change the workflow so drastically?
Because generating the first draft is easy. The hard part of knowledge work is the endless revision cycle.
True work is 90% iteration, not initial creation.
Yes. Iteration speed beats initial writing quality every time. Codex wins the file category because it drastically reduces revision friction.
A perfect writing still requires localized context adjustments, and Codex makes those adjustments effortless.
We have the text, we have the spreadsheets, but what happens when you need visual design?
And how do the little daily interactions hold up when you are heavy multitasking? Let's look at design capabilities first.
Codex wins pretty handily for static image generation. It has GPT Images 2.0 built directly into the engine.
You ask for a logo concept, and it appears natively in the chat. Codex is also fantastic for web page annotation.
You can visually click and comment on landing page designs right inside the app, but Claude fights back with motion graphics.
Claude has integrated access to Claude Design. It natively handles motion graphics and animations.
It is significantly faster than Codex's solution. Codex relies on a cumbersome third-party plugin called Remotion.
Remotion translates code into video animations, but it is notoriously fiddly and prone to breaking.
Claude Design just works smoothly out of the box.
What about browser control? A huge part of this work involves sending the AI out to research the live web.
Both tools offer Chrome extensions. Claude's extension feels slightly snappier for summarizing pages.
But Codex features a built-in sandbox browser. A sandbox is an isolated browser that hides your personal login data.
It is brilliant for pure no-login research tasks. You send Codex to scrape public websites without risking your logged-in accounts.
Now for the quirky extras. Claude has a feature called Dispatch. It hands off ongoing tasks from your desktop to your phone.
Though it is currently pretty buggy and unreliable, Codex, meanwhile, features something called Pets.
It is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
A small, animated digital creature that sits on your screen.
It visually indicates when the AI is processing, working, or thinking in the background.
I have to stop and ask about this. Are virtual pets just a silly, nostalgic gimmick?
It sounds totally absurd on the surface, but they actually solve a very real psychological problem: latency anxiety.
When you hand off a massive task and switch windows, you feel anxious. You wonder, did it freeze?
Exactly. It's the modern equivalent of the spinning beach ball. Seeing that little pet animating gives you instant visual confirmation.
Do these virtual pets actually solve a real psychological problem for us?
Yes. They completely cure latency anxiety. You get visual proof the machine hasn't frozen while working.
They eliminate our anxiety about hidden background processing.
Codex also includes mini windows, small floating chat boxes you can keep pinned over other applications.
These micro-interactions fundamentally change how comfortable you feel multitasking. They keep context visible without dominating your main monitor.
So we have built the ideal workspace. We have set up automations and mastered iterating on files.
But to make this a daily reality, we need a serious reality check. How much is all of this going to cost?
Pricing is where the divergence becomes incredibly stark. Codex provides massive value on its standard $20 a month plan.
It allows for incredibly strong, heavy daily usage. A standard professional can lean on it all day long.
Claude Cowork's $20 plan, however, is highly limited. If you constantly create files and parse large data sets, you will hit limits fast.
To match the raw daily utility you get from Codex, you have to upgrade. You're looking at Claude's $100 or $200 enterprise plans.
That is a very steep jump for an independent worker.
Which brings us to the ultimate strategic recommendation.
And it completely flips how I was thinking about this comparison. The best strategy is not to choose just one.
Right. The ideal setup relies on a shared file system. You create one main physical folder on your computer's hard drive.
Let's call it Agent Workspace. Inside that folder, you create your specific project subfolders,
Containing all your instructions, source data, and files. Then you point both Codex and Claude Cowork at that exact same physical folder.
They both share a single source of truth. You use each tool specifically for what it does best.
You let Claude handle the deep Zapier integrations and the reliable morning tasks. Claude dumps its research into a text file in that shared folder.
Then you open Codex. You have it read that exact same text file. And you use Codex's superior side-by-side editing to iterate.
But if the answers use both, how do you prevent total organizational chaos?
How do you prevent two agents from corrupting the exact same shared file? You have to explicitly prompt them both to only append new information. They act like polite coworkers sharing a desk.
Just prompt them to append data, never overwrite it.
Financially, this shared strategy makes perfect sense. Start with Codex for the best $20 value for robust daily editing.
Then, if your budget allows, integrate Claude specifically for those highly structured projects and complex third-party workflows.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out? Choose Codex for raw speed, surgical file editing, and budget value.
Its unified interface minimizes friction. And you choose Claude Cowork for granular permission control and reliable background workers.
They really are two sides of the knowledge work coin. The open plan startup versus the structured corporate office.
The friction we all feel usually comes from forcing the wrong tool onto a task. Beat. Which brings us all the way back to that initial feeling.
Staring at the two identical screens, wondering which one to choose.
If the ultimate recommendation is to just use both tools from a shared folder, think about what that actually means.
It means the future isn't about finding the one perfect AI tool.
Maybe your job is no longer just doing the raw work yourself. Maybe your job is evolving into becoming a manager.
You are a digital manager orchestrating a synthetic team, assigning tasks based on their algorithmic personalities.
Codex gets the urgent design edits and the rapid iteration. Claude gets the sensitive client data and the morning reports.
That completely changes how we should value our own daily routines. You aren't just an end user anymore.
It's definitely something to mull over the next time you boot up your workspace. Beat. See which algorithmic personality actually fits your style. Or maybe try hiring them both.